Hi, welcome to part 2 of a project to fully strip down, rebuild and modify this 1979 Suzuki GS550 Cafe Racer. This week I bought a Daytona Velona 80, which is a digital speedometer with built-in RPM function and warning lights. I'm going to use this to replace the two mechanical gauges that are currently on the bike. In this video I'm going to be removing the gauges, the bracket, the top yoke and the cables, and that's in preparation for part 3 where I build a custom bracket to fit the gauge onto the top yoke. So to remove the gauges I first need to undo the nuts that secure the cables to the speedo and tacho gauges. I then undo the nuts that secure the gauges to the bracket. As you can see, the ends of the cable on this bike have a square tip, and this tip slots into the mechanical drive on each of the gauges. Each gauge has a bulb that illuminates when the ignition is switched on, and on this particular gauge they're held in place by a rubber grommet, so to remove them it's simply a case of pulling them out. The bracket's fastened to the top yoke using 2 cap screws, so I'm using a hex bit to remove them. Next I unscrew the nut that secures the speedo cable to the speedo gearbox, which is found on the axle to the left side of the front wheel. The gearbox end of the cable consists of this female end piece, a small washer, a ferrule and a nut. I'll be keeping the speedo cable because it will drive a universal cable drive converter, which converts the rotation of the cable into a digital signal for the electronic gauge. However, I've noticed this one's got a split in the outer cable, so I'm going to have to buy a new one. The other end of the tacho cable is connected to the top front of the engine, so I'm unscrewing this nut to remove it. I won't be needing the tacho cable anymore because the digital gauge has a wire that detects the pulse of the current from the coil. So I'll be making a blanking plug to cover the hole in a future video. To remove the top yoke, I have to remove the fork clamp bolts, the stem bolt and the bolt that clamps the yoke onto the stem bolt. I use a screwdriver to prise open the clamps to break them away from the forks before spraying them with WD-40 lubricating oil. After leaving the WD-40 to work its magic for about 10 minutes, I use a rubber mallet to gently tap the top yoke upwards before removing it. The final thing I'm going to do in this video is to test fit a second-hand yoke, which I bought to replace the powder coated one and which I'll be working on in part 4. So that's all for today's video. If you would like to see part 3 where I make the custom bracket to fit the gauge to the top yoke and you'd like to follow the progress of the project, then please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time. Cheers!